Well, thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Rebecca, and all of you for coming out today. I think I'll just it's quite an extraordinary moment we're in, as was described. I want to tell you a little bit about Yes Magazine and this moment, and the book that I wrote, The Revolution Where You Live, because I think it builds on a lot of what we were just hearing. We formed Yes Magazine about 20 years ago, and we believed then that the world was in deep crisis and that a new world was being born. And we thought it just might be happening in communities all over the world and in the United States. And the best thing we could do was not to try to make up what we thought it might be, but to try to find out as journalists by going and reporting on what people are doing all over the country. So for 20 years, we've been doing issues of the magazine on things like resistance to mass incarceration, the new food movement, the new economy, different ways that people are choosing to live that could be more just and sustainable, that they're choosing to vote with their feet. They're choosing to do it right now. We've been doing that for 20 years. And a little over a year ago, I was in one of these moments of real crisis, looking around. This was before the election had started. I was looking around and I was thinking, you know, we've been reporting on this for a long time, and yet these crises continue and in many ways are getting worse. The crises I'm talking about are the climate crisis, the inequality crisis. There's now 20 individuals in the United States who own as much wealth as half of the population of the United States. And racism, and all that goes with that. There's some people who had hoped that with an African-American president that we would put that era behind us, and obviously that didn't happen and couldn't happen because of all the centuries of trauma and exclusion that have built up into what we are today. So we've been looking at those questions for a long time, and I just was in one of those moments feeling like, what the heck? You know, where do we actually go? And I happened to be in Oakland, California, and I went to visit a friend who runs a wonderful training institute called the Rockwood Institute. Her name is Akaya Winwood, and I brought to her my sort of emotional moment of crisis, and she said, so, she's one of these people who doesn't do small talk, she does. She said, so, if the universe could deploy the one small person that is you, what would it have you do? And so I said, I don't know, I guess I'd go out and see for myself. And so that was the moment I realized I needed to go on a road trip. So I went to the credit union and borrowed money for a pickup truck and a little camper, and negotiated a partial leave from Yes Magazine, negotiated with a book publisher so that I could write a book as a result of this, and I went out on the road. I spent 4 months traveling, 12,000 miles, started in Seattle, across the west, came through Wisconsin, across the Rust Belt. I spent quite a bit of time in the Rust Belt, in Appalachia, a little bit of time in the South, New Mexico, Texas, Utah. I wanted to go to the places that I hadn't normally gone because I thought, you know, if I'm not finding the answers in the progressive enclaves, maybe the answers are happening somewhere else, and I just need to go there and look for myself. So I spent 4 months on the road, and I want to just tell you a few stories from that road trip, and then tell you some things that have come out of that for me as the Trump administration unfolds. So let me tell you a little story from Montana. North of Seattle, there is a proposal to put a giant coal terminal on the Pacific Ocean, which would have been the largest coal terminal, export terminal in the country. And doing that in this day and age just seemed absolutely crazy. The Lummi tribe that has their traditional lands and their fisheries up there were adamantly opposed to it. So I was really curious, where was all that new coal going to come from that they had to build a brand new coal terminal? So I found out it was going to be this little valley in Montana, a large valley in Montana, but a quiet valley that's mostly being ranched. It's adjacent to the Northern Cheyenne tribe. So I drove out there and interviewed people and talked to them about what would happen there. I met this extraordinary group of people, these ranchers who've been on the land for generations. I interviewed one guy named Roger Sprague. You know, he looks every bit like the good old boy with the cowboy hat you'd expect to see in Montana. And, you know, he said, my family's been on this land since 1881. When I go out horseback riding, I see all this evidence that there are native people here much longer than my family was, and I respect that. This is sacred land. And I also respect my own family's history on this land. And I want to protect that. And he said something I was surprised to hear from him, and several of the other ranchers use this language too, although they admitted voting for George W. Bush. They said, those corporations are going to make their money on the back of us small ranchers. And then I listened to the people in the tribe. There's actually a ceremony held while I was there because the Lummi tribe carved a totem pole and brought it out to the Northern Cheyenne tribe as a gift of solidarity because they were on both ends of this coal line. And so I was there for the ceremony when the totem pole arrived, and so I was listening to one speech after another. And again, I was hearing the same theme. This land is sacred. This water is sacred. We inherited this beautiful place from previous generations, and we have a moral responsibility to pass it along to the next generations in good condition. And it's interesting because that willingness, that deep commitment to that place, both brought these groups together, the ranchers and the native people, but it also motivated them to do the long, hard work of reading environmental documents, traveling hundreds of miles to testify in the state capitol, traveling thousands of miles to Washington, D.C. to testify. Year after year, it was hard work to keep this mine from going in. And when I returned home, I learned that the mine had been stopped. The coal company gave up. And when they did, they said one of the reasons they gave was regulatory uncertainty, which is basically, that's one. And at about the same time, the Army Corps of Engineers declared that they would not give the permit for the coal terminal, so the Lummi tribe won as well. So then I was thinking about that. Okay, so here's these different groups. They did some really hard work, and they won something that will benefit them and their children and children's children. But also, all the people along that proposed rail line, hundreds of miles of rail line, they won't be breathing all that coal dust, and that coal dust won't be getting into their water. So they won't. And then the folks in Asia, who would have been the recipient of all that filthy coal, that would have been burned and would have been in their lungs. And there's already people dying by the thousands from coal pollution in Asia. So they won, because that's 1.2 billion tons of coal that's not going to get burned. And then I was thinking, well, actually all of us won. Every single human being on the planet won, because that is a major contributor to climate change that will not be put into the atmosphere. So these three little groups of people that were relatively powerless, they were getting shit done on the climate. And I really got to thinking a lot about that, because there's something very powerful about people who take a stand where they live and take on that responsibility. Let me tell you another story. This one is from Chicago. How many people have heard of the New Era Windows and Doors Company? Okay, so a lot of you have heard of this story. So I went and visited them because I was in Chicago and had heard the story, but I wanted to meet them for myself. So the story, for those of you who don't know, this was a window factory that the employer decided to shut down, but didn't take the time to pay the back wages for the work that had already been done in that factory. And so the workers occupied the factory. They got their wages through a lot of political struggle, got the wages, and the factory was also sold to a new owner. Well, this time they thought that this just might happen again, and they went to Argentina, and they learned about the occupied factories in Argentina, and they were inspired by that story. So the next time that the new owner wanted to sell out, they were prepared, and through political struggle and through the help of Working World, this wonderful organization that finances cooperatives, they were able to buy out this factory. So now I went to visit them to see what it was like for them running it themselves. And they're still struggling financially. It's a great organization to support, by the way, if you ever need any windows. But they're struggling, but they've cut out some things that were not profitable. And one of the things they said is, one of the really good things is we don't have to pay a CEO salary, so we're saving a whole bunch of money. And then they talked about how, they used to come up with good ideas about how to improve production, but the managers weren't interested. So now they said, now we have a good idea, we can sit down and talk to each other, and we can implement it. And so they're feeling really good about that. And the other thing that I was struck by is that if they were a regular corporate-owned factory, they would have to be producing maximum profits because they'd have to be returning all that money to Wall Street. This company doesn't have to do that. They have to make enough to run the business and to pay themselves. But they don't have to maximize the profits. And that means that the enterprise can stay home and provide those good jobs over time. So the return that they're getting isn't going to Wall Street, it's going to the whole community, because that's an enterprise right in the middle of that community that has that kind of stability to it. Let me just tell you quickly about Cincinnati, because that's where a union co-op movement is underway that I think is really interesting. The unions there decided that since they were fighting so many losing battles, they wanted to see if they could own the means of production, as Callie was talking about. So they started collaborating with a community group called that became the Union Co-op movement. The faith community is very involved there as well. There's an Old Testament theologian named Walter Brueggemann in Cincinnati. And there's a fan here. And he's been talking about things like the Jubilee, right? Because in the Old Testament it says that periodically you return the land and you free the slaves and you forgive the debts. Okay, so we have something very analogous to that now. We have human trafficking for sure, and we have mass incarceration. We have people burdened with huge amounts of debt. And we have maldistribution of wealth, which is like the distribution of wealth in the Bible that is about the land. So this faith community is having this conversation. What does it mean now? What would it mean for Cincinnati to have a Jubilee year? And then another group that's involved is the Mondragon Cooperatives in Spain, which many of you know is an incredibly successful, large-scale cooperative system of co-ops, actually, worker-owned co-ops. And they've sent a representative and are collaborating to help bring their wisdom to how that co-op process can unfold in Cincinnati. So it's become this little nexus. They actually have been having a series of conferences and working with people in other parts of the country to bring this idea further. So we'll see if it goes where it needs to go, which is rapid expansion in my view. I did an interview, when I got back, I interviewed Michael Schuman, who's an economist, and said, why isn't this new economy thing taking off, right? It makes so much sense. People want it, they want locally rooted jobs. You know, they don't want all their money to be going to Wall Street and the jobs to be going, you know. So I asked him that, and he said, well, one of the big things that's going to make a huge difference is when we figure out how to get all of the union pension funds and the investments from our retirement funds channeled back into the local economy. Not just screen out the back stuff, but really channel it back into. So there's lots of other stories that are in the book. Here's my shameless plug, The Revolution Where You Live. I'll be doing a book signing tomorrow at a room of one's own. Lots of other stories from around the country of these kinds of innovations. But I want to just give you a few more data points. After I was done with this book, I went to Standing Rock. And Standing Rock is not in this book. I reported on it for Yes Magazine. But I spent 2 weeks there, some of the time with Paulette Moore, who we did some documentary stuff together. And I think there were some extraordinary changes that were happening there that I think get to what folks here have been talking about in terms of cultural shift. There's many, many stories to tell from there, but I just want to tell two. One was when the clergy showed up at Standing Rock. The clergy came and said, you know, there's this doctrine of discovery that was based on this papal bull way back in the day that basically said it's okay to take land that is empty, and land is considered empty if there's not Christians living on it. So that was the legal foundation for essentially the genocide of Native Americans. So one denomination after another came with a printout of that doctrine of discovery and burned it at the sacred fire at Standing Rock. So that was a profound moment in terms of when you think of a cultural shift, right? This is part of the culture of our country has been that it's okay to do that. This is one of those moments where I think a profound shift happened, catalyzed by what was happening at Standing Rock. And the other, of course, was when the veterans came in December. And there was this profound apology that Wesley Clark Jr. made to the elders at Standing Rock for the kinds of behaviors that the American government has undertaken on Indian land. And then one other, again, there's so many stories, but one other was a forgiveness march that Paulette and I attended, where a young Native woman from Navajo country spoke up at the Sacred Fire early in the morning one day and said, we can't do the work we need to be doing if we're carrying anger in our hearts. So she led a forgiveness walk to the Morton County Sheriff's Department and said, we're going to pray here for the police officers and for their children, that they would have clean water to drink. It was just an absolutely stunning moment. So, my conclusion from Standing Rock, I woke up at Standing Rock on election day, the day after the election, realizing what had just taken place, and just feeling this sense of overwhelm with the implications for Standing Rock itself as well as some of the other places. So I climbed out of my icy tent and called up my colleagues back at Yes Magazine and said, I just turned in a column, but I need to write something different. And the column I wrote was about how in a case of a disaster, the first thing we need to do is to reach out to one another. Because it's a terrifying time, and the only way we're going to feel safe is if we tell each other, I've got your back, you have my back. And there's certainly some people who are most vulnerable right now, right? There's certainly undocumented people are incredibly vulnerable. Muslims are vulnerable. People of color are vulnerable. But all sorts of other groups are too. Jews are vulnerable. Journalists are. Scientists who talk about climate change, or a school teacher who teaches about evolution is vulnerable. I mean, the number of us that are vulnerable it could be any of us really who could be targeted. And the only way we can feel safe enough to not, I know a lot of you are activists, you'll be out there regardless, but as a whole, as a community, the only way to stay safe enough to keep at it is to be showing up for each other in person and saying, I've got your back. If there's a swastika painted on your front porch, I'll be there with paint, and afterwards we'll go out and have drinks. Because we got to keep our spirits up. This is going to be a long process. And when we've done that, then we also have the energy and the sense of joy and passion that we can do the other work that needs to be done. We can go and show up at our Member of Congress's office, and we can do the hard work that I know so many of you have done for so long, and we can keep on supporting one another so that we do that with joy in our hearts. Because, we've got a society right now that already has this toxic level of isolation. The isolation, even before all this political stuff started, kicked in with Trump. The isolation is as toxic as cigarette smoking. It's been growing over time. People spend so much time just trying to make a living, but then they go home and they're sitting in front of a screen. And they think they're connecting to people, but they're not, because the screen is an artificial sense of connection. So screens and social media are great for organizing, but they're not a substitute for actually getting together with other people and doing the kind of struggling that Kali was talking about, where we really listen to one another and we really work through the tough questions together, but we also celebrate together. And the celebration is, I think, what can give us the energy to do the work over the long term. So we reconnect, we resist, and then my third R is revitalization. Because I think we don't need to give up our dreams of a better world just because of number 45. And California is a really great example of that. They're going ahead with their sanctuary, being a sanctuary state. They're not backing off. And they're going to go to climate initiatives. They're not backing off already. So whatever there's different politics in different places that allow us to do the different things. But there's a certain amount of this revitalization. We don't even need government to be involved to keep moving forward. So we need to be doing that both for our spirits and because, as Kali was pointing out, we don't have all that much time left, especially on the climate question. So that's my pitch. When we have that level of support together, when we connect together, when we discuss things in ways that use our head but also draw on the heart, I think we have a much better foundation to make the kind of profound change that's really what's going to bring the revolution home. Awesome.